Hello, welcome to the program Pilgrims Path, the program that gives us a window into the lives and experiences of modern day pilgrims. It takes us through the challenges they encountered, the joys they shared, and some of the difficulties that came their way. And we learn from it as we also move on in our onward journey. Today we are in the home of one veteran educationist and church leader in the person of Elder Mrs. Constance Laryea. Ma, you welcome to Pilgrim's Path.
Thanks for having me.
Who is Elder Constance Laryea?
Constance Laryea is a child of God, born to Mr. Emmanuel Alfred and Mrs. Grace Lamioko Kotenekwe. She was named Constance May Na Ade Kotenekwe. But as time went on, the name changed to Mrs. Constance May Laryea. And then later on, it changed again to Elder Constance May Laryea. I thank God for all these changes because they are experiences which cannot be ratified.
Mm-hmm. Mama, before we go to the changes, were you born in La?
No. No. I was born in Accra.
Accra, okay.
Actually, my parents lived in Accra. And it's only my father's father who came from La.
Man, just for clarity, when we say La and Accra, some who do not know exactly where they are, we think we're talking about one and the same place. Now, when you talk Accra, that's Gamashi.
Gamashi, yeah.
Which is part of, that's the indigenous
that's right.
center of Accra, right? And La also part, but towards the east.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So it's my grandfather who came from La.
La, all right.
But my parents, they got married at Osu and lived in Accra. All of us were born in Accra.
Okay.
We came here 1962. The date is on the wall there. 1962, when some of us have already had our children and so. So, but we come from La.
Right.
You know, everybody has 4 families.
Exactly.
Your,
2 paternal,
yes,
2 maternal.
correct. But the weightiest is the grandfather, paternal.
That being a Gan.
Being a Gan.
That's right.
Because that is where you get your name from.
Right.
That is where you get your name from. So we come from La. And my father's mother was from Osu.
Okay.
So we have families in La and Osu. But our mother is from She was from Gamashi.
Machine.
Both father and mother
Mother.
were from Gamashi. And we all lived in Gamashi. We all were born in Gamashi. Okay.
But so,
My
where
father-
did you start your education?
I'll come to it. My father, because the question you asked, I haven't finished answering that one. My father was an accountant, but he had a flair for legal things, so he got a license to prepare legal documents and so on. So he did that, but he was an accountant. And my mother was a nurse. She too did other things apart from the main work, the profession. She, at that time, she was a very competent fashion designer and a seamstress. She made all sorts of clothes for people, wedding clothes, whatever. She was a baker too, and a confectioner. He made all sorts of lozenges and so on. And we helped in all that, so we had an idea of all that.
That's great.
Growing up. Now, my parents, they were staunch Christians. We never missed church on Sunday.
Right.
They were both Anglicans. My mother was a Methodist, but when she got married to my father, she changed hands and became an Anglican. She did all she could there, helping the women and so on. But so we went to church on Sundays and made preparation for Sunday church on Saturday.
Right.
Doing all the scrubbing and cooking and washing and what have you in preparation for the keeping of Sunday.
Yeah, I was asking your basic education.
Yes, well, I started school in a Methodist oriented institution, and then moved on to another school, another private school. That one was Anglican, and that is where I had my education mainly, the basic education mainly. But later on, before I finished, I moved on again to a Roman Catholic boarding convent.
Oh, I see. All in Accra.
No, the rest were in Accra, but the convent was in Keta.
Guitar, okay.
So I was in Keta convent for 3 years.
Now, was it by choice because your parents being Anglican and going to a Roman Catholic convent?
Yeah, it was my father because he was thinking of what the training there.
Okay.
They were very good, especially for girls.
That's right.
So very early, she took me there. And even when I was going, a friend of his was so sorry, so very, very sad. He didn't want me to go. Said I was too young. I was only 11 years then. Said I was too young to move out from the family. So he also added his daughter to go with me.
I see.
Brother Fekwote.
Okay.
He was a good friend of my father, so he also asked his daughter to accompany me to the convent. I have never regretted any part of my educational life, no. I've gained from every part of it. And then from the convent, now I came to an Anglican-oriented institution for my secondary and teacher training course. After that, then I went into teaching, which was a requisite for the university then. So I had to teach for 3 years if I wanted to go to the university. So I taught for the 3 years and then sat for the education university entrance. And by God's grace, I was very successful. So we were the second batch of women admitted to the then University College of the Gold Coast. The first batch, there were only 4 girls admitted, but we couldn't go because we had to teach for 3 years before. And then, but the second batch, our batch, we were 11 girls. So, in the nutshell.
So that's University College of Gold Coast, now University of Ghana.
Now University of Ghana, yeah. Now University of Ghana.
So you did 4-year program there?
Where?
In the university?
No. At that time it was 3 years.
3 years.
It was 3 years. University.
Well, were you in Voter Hall? Or by then it had not been built?
It hadn't been built.
All right.
At that time they were building the Commonwealth Hall. And they meant it for the girls. But we were so few. The hall was so huge. So we couldn't go. We used the premises of the university primary. As a accommodation. But we were able to have, one person to one room. So that was okay.
Right. So after your graduation, since you were already in the teaching field, did you have to go for any practical program in the field, or you were just assigned to a school?
Yes, I was assigned to a school because I've had my training already.
Already, right.
I've had both. I've had the ordinary training and I've had their advanced training too. So after that, you were assigned to an institution higher than the primary school. Either you either you taught at a higher institution or you went to administration. So after your tertiary course, you were termed an educationist and not a teacher. So I became an educationist in 1957.
Right.
By that time, all the programs we did at the university were supervised by the University of London. So, in fact, even the certificates came from there. All the examinations we had and so on, after they are marked here, they are sent there for their own verification. So that is
right. So after your graduation, you went to administration?
No. I went to a higher institution.
A secondary school?
Now what? University, Accra University. What do they call them? Technical University. It was then Accra Polytechnic.
Accra Polytechnic, yes, okay.
That was my first institution.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how many years were you there?
In Accra Poly.
Accra Poly, yeah.
Hey. I have to work it out.
Okay, let's leave it for now.
Okay, but I was there for quite some time.
All right. So, why at Accra Poly? By then you weren't married.
No.
So it was later that, but you began telling us about your parental background and having been an Anglican. How come you became a Seventh-day Adventist?
Yeah. How come I became a Seventh-day Adventist? I was highly interested in anything about the Bible. If anybody came around with any program based on the Bible, I would like to go there and see what was happening. But this one was a very peculiar program. I saw the advert for this particular program. And the title for the program was When Money Will Be Thrown into the Streets of Accra
And
nobody will pick them up. So, and the title for the crusade was Your Bible Speaks. So I said, what type of topic is this? Does this man mean Accra is in the Bible? These days, when even people are killing their uncles who are too old and not dying, so they can inherit their property, you want to tell me money will be thrown in the streets of Accra
and
nobody will pick it up? And it's in the Bible, especially Accra, in the Bible. Okay. I took notice of the date and time and made sure to be there on time. I went with one of my friends, Madam Mercy Adams. I have the cousin who was more than my sister. Anything I did we met at the college. Anything I did with her. Wherever I went with her. Whatever plans I have, I discussed with her. She was everything to me. But this time, I invited her for the meeting. She asked me whether the man coming has another type of Bible. I said, no, I don't think so. He said, your Bible speaks. So she said she won't attend. I did everything to encourage her to come. She won't. She didn't. Okay. So I went with this other friend and we were attending the meetings. We attended all the 3-week meetings. And each time I attended the meeting, I went to this other cousin with the Bible in hand to show her what we did and so on. I said, well, it's in the Bible, and she has her own Bible, it's okay. Okay. Then came the time for decision. That was not easy. As for the Sabbath, I just took it like that. I was able to understand. I was able to accept. I was ready to start keeping it and everything. But when it came to the realization of having to leave my church for another church I didn't know, it wasn't easy.
It's a tug of war.
It wasn't easy. I was defending, even a Methodist priest came to our house and he had it. I was defending the Sabbath left, right, anywhere. Unless you don't show your face, I'll give it to you. But when it came to leaving my church, it wasn't easy. I thought of all sorts of ways to stay. So I went to my church pastor. We call them fathers. But this one was even higher than a father. He was a canon. So, but for this program, I'll be more comfortable calling him my church pastor. So I went to my church pastor with my cousin who didn't want to hear anything. I took her there. She didn't know what I was going to say, or she wouldn't have come. She asked me, but I know if I told him, she won't come, and I wanted her to be there. So I didn't tell her. I just said, just accompany me. He said, well, how can I accompany you just like that? I don't know what to. I said, well, if you don't come, I'll go alone. But if I go, I'll never tell you what I went to do. So on that date, before I knew what, there she was waiting for me to accompany me to go. I said, all right. So we went together. And the pastor was happy to see us. He knew us very well, very, very well. Because apart from church programs and so on, he was married to one of our cousins.
Oh, okay.
In fact, the sister of the other one, the cousin I went with. So he welcomed us, and that's our mission. I said, well, I have a problem which I think he can help with. So I've come to see him about it. I said, first of all, Pastor, which day is the Lord's Day? He looked at me, he looked at my cousin. The name is Emilia. He looked at me, he looked at Emilia, he came back to look at me. So I repeated the question. He was quiet again. Then there was a sort of library, a bookcase behind the seat where he was sitting. All this time he hasn't said anything. So he turned to that bookcase and started flipping the books. Flipping the books. Then he would look at me and continue flipping. Then he came out with a big fat book. Looked at me again, and opened the book, and opened the book, opened the book, and when he was satisfied, he started reading. And we were listening to what he was reading. He read and read and read and read and read and read. When he finished, he looked at me. He said, "Are you satisfied now?" I said, "Well, not quite, but I have a question." "Pastor, do you know this?" Because all he read pointed out the fact that the Lord's Day was Saturday. So I asked him, "Do you know this? Have you known this all the time?" He said, "Why? There's no pastor who doesn't know." He said, "We all know. We all know which day is the Lord's Day. We all know the Lord's Day is Saturday." I said, "And if you know, why don't you teach it? And why don't you practice it? Because that is the day the Lord Himself had selected." Pastor, it's the same man who made the Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday. He could have chosen any day because all of them belong to Him. He made them all. But He chose the last one. He didn't just choose it, but He accepted it. He rested on it. He hallowed it and set it apart. Set it apart. After having blessed it, He set it apart from the 6 and gave all the 6 to us. But the 7th, He said that one was special. So what's your problem? Why don't you keep it? Why don't you teach it? Then he said, there's nothing He can do. That is what He came to meet. The keeping of Sunday. I said, but you know it's wrong. And if you know it's wrong, why should you continue it? He said, so what is your mission? I said, well, I have accepted the Saturday because that is what God wants me to accept. But to leave the church isn't easy for me. That's why I've come. You see, if you make a mistake, you correct it. So I've come to see if the two of us can start something that will correct the mistake of the church. There are so many of them, but we can start with the Sabbath. He said, how? I said, we can teach the church members. We can let them. I said, Anglicans are the people who should find keeping of the Sabbath very easy, because we attend Mass every day, including the Sabbath. So all we have to do is to put the weight from Sunday to transfer it to Saturday. That's all. We'll come to church on Sunday, all right, but the weight will go to Saturday. So I said we should teach them. We should let them know the truth. He said, you mean we'll teach the congregation what? We'll tell them that God's day is not Sunday. I said, but that is what they should know. And that is what you read for me just now. That God's day is Saturday. So we should let them know. So I said, I'm here. You know me very well. I'm here. And I'm here to help you. If you can't do it, just give me this thing to go, and I'll do it. And we can start together. Then he said, you don't know what you are saying. We cannot start anything in this church. If we have to make any correction, if we have to do anything at all, it should come from the top. We are a local church. We cannot just get up and do what we like. I said, oh, I see. So it should come from the top. He said, yes. I said, fine. I'll go and draft a letter and bring it to you for you to go through, make the necessary amendments, then we'll send it to the top. He said, Constance, you are too bold. You don't know what you are saying. I said, I know. Don't you understand what I'm saying? And why don't I know what I'm saying? I know what I'm saying. We are going to send a letter to the Archbishop of Canterbury. That he was the head of the Anglican Church. We are going to send a letter to the Archbishop of Canterbury. He said, we can't do that. I said, why? Don't you have the address? He said, he has the address. I said, we don't have a problem. We are going to send a letter to the Archbishop of Canterbury. I will draft it and bring it to you to go through, and then we'll do the necessary amendment and we'll take it. He said, you know something? If we take this, he won't receive it. I said, why? You have the right address and everything. Why won't he receive it? He said, let me tell you, when it gets there, somebody will receive the letter. He'll open it, read it, and if he thinks it deserves the attention of the Archbishop, then he will send it to somebody else higher than himself. That somebody too will read it. So it will continue like that until it gets to him, if it will ever get to him. He said, if it gets to somebody on the way during the hierarchy, and that person thinks he shouldn't receive it, the letter will end in his waste paper basket. So there's no point writing to the Archbishop of Canterbury. So I sat there. All this time, Emilia hasn't said anything. So I sat there. I didn't know what to say again. I didn't know what to do again. So I was looking at the church pastor. And after some time I said, "Thank you." He said, "What are you thanking me for? All the suggestions you brought cannot be used. So what are you thanking me for?" I said, "You don't know. You've done a lot for me. As soon as my feet get out of your door, that is the time I have left the Anglican Church." He said, "What? What? You mean you are going to leave the Anglican Church if you leave my hall?" I said, "Yes. That's what you've done for me. And that's what I'm thanking you for. Because that is what I couldn't do before I came here. But now you have helped me to get out." Pastor, let me tell you, as soon as I leave this place, I'm no more an Anglican. I'll come to the church all right. If somebody invites me to a wedding, to a funeral, to a whatever, I'll come. But not as a member of this church. As soon as you see me out of this place, I'm out. And all this time, I didn't even know the name of the church that was keeping the Sabbath.
I see.
But I left. So at the next meeting, I called for a card and I filled it. And I was added to the baptismal candidates. So on that day, we were baptized into the Seventh Day.
Were you young people or were there older folks?
Those baptized?
Yes.
Oh, we were mainly young. Mainly under 30. Were mainly young. But there were older ones. Somebody like Sister Mark, Stella Mark. She was a magistrate and an elderly woman. She attended all the meetings. She was always sitting behind us. So anytime we came to the crusade, and as soon as it starts, we looked back to see whether she was there. And she was always there. Not knowing she was doing the same thing. She said she was always checking on us to come. So we were baptized with her on that day. And she is the only one I can think of elderly.
Right. So that was in 1959.
Yeah, 1959. 1959.
And then you joined the Hansen Road.
Yes. We were baptized in 1959, 6 March. 6 June.
6 June.
Yeah, 6 June. And we didn't start going to the Hansen Road Church. We started at the community hall, community center. The next Sabbath, after my baptism, the very first Sabbath after my baptism, I went to church, sitting down and waiting for the Sabbath school to start. I was there when somebody beckoned me to come from a distance. So I looked around and everything pointed at me. I didn't know this man, but he beckoned me to come. Anyway, so I got up to go. I left my hymn book, Bible, and bag on my seat and got up and followed him. But he looked back and realized that I've left me. He said, I have to come with everything. Hey, I don't know where I'm going anyway. So I went back, collected my things, and followed him. So he took me to a small room where there were, I think, 2 or 3 other people. He said, we are going to the rostrum. I said, we are going where? He said, we are going to the rostrum. I said, me too. He said, all of us here, we are going there. I said, we are going there to do what? He said, you'll see when you get there. I said, you don't mean it. He said, that's exactly what I mean. You are going with us. But when you get there, I'll ask you to look at everything I do. Because very soon you will be doing it. I said, me? And if I can't do it? He said, you can do it. He said, if I can do it, you can do it better. So you'll do it. Only you have to study a little. I said, okay. He said, you know something? Always have in mind that it isn't you who will do anything. God will do his own thing. He only wants somebody who is willing to do his work, so he can do the work through that person. Yes. So I know you love God. I know you will be too willing to do his work. That's why I came for you. And we are going there together. Just watch what I do. Next time, it will be you.
Well, sorry to cut it, but what was the reaction of your parents when you decided to
be Seventh-day Adventist? That was one thing I feared. I know, especially my daddy, I know he will tear me into pieces. So I didn't tell him anything. He didn't know. But my mother knew I was attending the crusade, because I treated her like I was treating Emilia. Anything I came to, she would be doing whatever she was doing. I had the Bible open on top of her head. So she knew. But my father, I don't know whether she told him, but I couldn't face my father telling him I'm attending crusade, I'm leaving. I'm leaving the Anglican Church. Tell my father that I couldn't do it. So I didn't tell them anything. They didn't know I was going to be baptized until I got baptized. And that day, after the baptism, I went straight to them, but I didn't tell them. And we were eating, just having our lunch together, as we used to do when we were there. So we were having lunch together when somebody came with a message for me. He said, Mr. Ofekwate, he lived in the vicinity. So he said, Mr. Ofekwate has sent me to tell your daughter who was baptized today that she should come there before going home. And somehow I didn't panic or anything. I've already been baptized, so what else can we can do? I was ready for anything. I didn't panic. So I said, I sent the reply to him that okay.
Sorry, was Mr. Fokote already in the church?
Yes.
He was already baptized.
He was already baptized. So I said, okay, just tell him I'll come. So my father said, huh? So you have been baptized? I said, yes, today. Into what? Into which church? I said, the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So those who keep Saturday? I said, yes. They keep Saturday because that is the Lord's day. And that is what the Lord wants us to do, to keep His
commandments.
Sabbath day. That was the end.
And he, was it because Mr. Fokwati was his friend?
No. I got to know later. I'll tell you. Anyway, so that day after I finished with my parents, and by God's grace, they've known I've left the church. I was happy about that one because it was over. I went to Ufekwati. Ufekwati said, congratulations. Congratulations. I'm not surprised you have come. He said, you know, I was a staunch Jehovah's Witness. But now, I've left it and come. I'm now a Seventh-day Adventist. If you know the truth, you have to take it. I'm very, 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 very happy. I'm very, very, very proud of you. I'm always proud of you. I'm not surprised. You got to know the truth and you accepted it. You know, look at this library. He had a library from the top to the bottom. He said, I keep the key here. He showed me where he kept it. You are welcome any day, anytime to come and do whatever you like with these books, any of these books. And he had. When he's coming to church, anytime he was coming to church, he had a nephew who will be holding
the books.
He said, "You are welcome to any of them. I keep the key here." And that's why I said, you should come here before you go home. So I thanked him and left. Even though I never went for anything, I was very happy. So my parents, that was the end. They didn't say anything. But later, many years ago, now where was I teaching? I've forgotten, but later I realized I needed some books. I went to my father's library, picked up certain books, and which I was happy with, which could help me teaching. I was then teaching at the Accra Poly.
Yeah.
So I picked up these two books. And they were books, Ellen White books.
I see.
What is it? Prophet and Kings. And the other one,
Pictures and Prophets.
I think so. I've forgotten the other one. But they were Ellen White books. You know, I'm writing the history. You know, the missionaries, when they came, they started at Apam. They lived there. But they came this way to sell their books and then went back. So I think my father started collecting some of those books and read. That's why he wouldn't buy without reading. So he had already read these books. He already knew the day. He had kept it like the father, and he knew. So he wasn't surprised. He was happy with it.
Thank God.
He was very, very
God has his own way of.
Yeah. When I went to the convent, I wanted to become a Catholic. What this man did to me, the things he said into my ears. That's why from there, he put me into an Anglican institution. So this time,
It was.
but I'm glad the way it happened, because otherwise I wouldn't know how to tell him. I wouldn't know. But Ofekote did it for me. He didn't know I hadn't told them. So he came, sent somebody, and that's how it happened.
Thank you. Our time is almost up.
Hey.
And we will want to run up for today. And then the way the story is so exciting, we would like to continue next week. But for now, it's been a wonderful time with Elder Mrs. Constance Laryea as she shares with us how she became a Seventh-day Adventist at a time when it was very rare to see Seventh-day Adventists in the society, and how she was so fortunate to have God Himself preparing the grounds that she never encountered any parental opposition. And we give God the glory.
Amen.
But that is not
Amen.
all the story. There are still some elements of experiences that she's here to share with us. And I want to promise you that next week, please don't fail to tune in to share the wonderful, exciting experiences of our renowned educationists. Thanks for being with us. Hope to be with you next week.